I was standing in my small apartment kitchen, stirring honey into my tea, when the lawyer's email arrived. Subject line: regarding the estate of Margaret Chen. My grandmother. The woman who raised me when my own mother couldn't be bothered. The notification sat there glowing on my phone screen while steam curled up from my mug, and I knew before opening it that everything was about to change. Grandma Margaret passed 3 months ago. The funeral was small, intimate, exactly how she would have wanted it. I sat in the front row alone while my mother Linda and my brother Derek occupied seats near the back, checking their phones between eulogies. They had always treated Grandma like an inconvenience, a relic from another time who didn't understand their modern busy lives. But to me, she was everything. She taught me to bake bread from scratch, to find poetry in ordinary moments, to stand firm when the world pushed back. The email was formal legal, asking me to attend a reading of the will next Tuesday at 2 p.m. I assumed it would be straightforward. Grandma had a modest home, some savings, family heirlooms to distribute. What I didn't expect was that this meeting would expose every crack in my family's foundation, every lie they'd built their lives around. Before I dive deeper, I want to thank everyone who's been following these stories. Your comments mean everything. Drop a note below telling me where you're listening from. Because sometimes the most powerful moments happen when we share our truths together. Growing up, my family operated on an unspoken hierarchy. My brother Derek was the golden child, brilliant, charming, destined for greatness according to our mother. He went to prestigious schools, got the best opportunities, received endless praise for mediocre achievements. 3 months after the will reading, I received a letter from Mom. Not an email or text, but an actual handwritten letter. In it, she admitted she'd been hurt by Grandma's decision, felt rejected, questioned her own worth as a daughter. She asked if we could meet for coffee. The tone wasn't fully apologetic, but it was softer, more vulnerable than anything she'd expressed before. I thought about it for a week. Part of me wanted to refuse, to let her feel the weight of absence the way I had so many times. But Grandma's voice echoed in my memory. Breaking cycles doesn't mean becoming hard. It means choosing differently. So I agreed to meet, in a neutral cafe downtown, both of us arriving separately. Mom looked older somehow, tired around the edges. We ordered coffee and sat across from each other in uncomfortable silence, until she finally spoke. "I don't understand why she did this," she said quietly. "I'm trying to, but I don't." "Because I showed up," I said simply. "Not for money or recognition. Just because I loved her." Mom's eyes watered. "I loved her too." "Did you though?" I asked, not cruelly, just honestly. "Or did you love the idea of her, the convenience of her, the safety net she provided? Because love isn't just a feeling, Mom. It's action. It's showing up even when it's inconvenient. It's remembering birthdays and answering phone calls and being present in moments that don't benefit you directly." She looked down at her coffee cup, stirring it slowly. "You're right," she whispered finally. "I took her for granted. I took you for granted. We didn't fix everything that day. Healing doesn't work like that, doesn't happen in one conversation over lattes. But it was a beginning, a crack in the wall we'd built between us. I told her I wasn't interested in rebuilding the old dynamic, but I was open to creating something new, something honest. She nodded, said she'd try, and for the first time in my life, I believed she might actually mean it. The lawyer, Mr. Patterson, was older, methodical, the kind of man who measured his words carefully. He gestured for us to sit at a polished conference table, and opened a leather folder containing Grandma's will. "Thank you all for coming," he began. "Margaret Chen was very specific about how she wanted her estate handled. This may take some time, so please bear with me." Mom shifted in her seat, already impatient. Derek leaned back, confident, probably calculating what percentage of Grandma's house value would clear his credit card debt. I sat quietly, hands folded, feeling the weight of something unspoken hanging in the room. Mr. Patterson cleared his throat and began reading. The first section covered small items: jewelry pieces, photo albums, books. Grandma left her jade bracelet to a neighbor who used to bring her groceries. Her collection of poetry books went to her book club friend. Mom's expression tightened with each bequest that didn't include her name. Then came the significant assets. To my daughter Linda, Mr. Patterson read. I leave the sum of $1, along with this message. You taught your children that love is transactional. Here is your transaction. The room went absolutely silent. Mom's face drained of color. What? She whispered. What is this? Mr. Patterson continued without pause. To my grandson Derek, I leave the sum of $1, along with this message. You borrowed time, money, and care from those who loved you, then forgot to pay any of it back. Consider this a reminder that some debts matter. Derek shot forward in his chair. This is ridiculous. She can't do this. There are laws about disinheritance. This won't hold up. Mr. Patterson looked at him steadily. Mrs. Chen was of sound mind and worked with legal counsel to ensure this will is entirely valid. If you'd like to challenge it, that's your right, though I should mention she anticipated that possibility and left detailed documentation of her reasoning. My heart was hammering. I hadn't said a word, barely breathed. Mom turned to me, her eyes wild with something between fury and desperation. Did you know about this? Did you manipulate her into this? Before I could respond, Mr. Patterson continued. To my granddaughter Sophie, I leave the entirety of my remaining estate, including my home, all savings, investments, and personal property. The current estimated value is approximately $2.8 million. The number hung in the air like smoke. I couldn't process it. Grandma's house was nice but not extravagant. She lived simply, drove an old car, clipped coupons. Where had this money come from? Mr. Patterson answered before I could ask. Mrs. Chen was an extremely prudent investor. She purchased property in the 1970s that appreciated significantly. She made careful stock investments. She lived frugally not because she had to, but because she chose to. And she wanted to ensure her estate went to the person who showed genuine care without expectation of return. He slid a sealed envelope across the table to me. She also left you this letter. She requested you read it privately, but said you could share it if you felt it was necessary. My hands shook as I took the envelope. The paper was cream-colored, expensive, with my name written in Grandma's distinctive handwriting. Mom started talking, her voice rising. This is absolutely unacceptable. I'm her daughter. I have rights. That money should be divided equally. It's only fair. Fair, I said quietly, the word escaping before I could stop it. Excuse me. Mom snapped. I looked up at her, really looked at her, maybe for the first time in years. You want to talk about fair? You forgot my birthday 4 years in a row. When I was hospitalized with pneumonia, you visited once for 20 minutes. When Derek needed money for his third failed business venture, you called me at midnight begging me to help, but when I needed a place to stay after my apartment flooded, you said your guest room was being renovated. It wasn't. I drove by. You just didn't want me there. Her mouth opened, closed. No words came out. Derek found his voice instead. This is emotional manipulation. Grandma was old, probably confused. Sophie, you were living with her. You obviously influenced her. I took care of her, I said, my voice stronger now. I bathed her when she couldn't do it herself. I read to her when her eyes got too weak. I held her hand through every doctor's appointment while you two sent occasional text messages asking if she was still kicking. Don't you dare suggest I manipulated her. I loved her. That's something neither of you understand. Mr. Patterson stood. I think we're done here. Sophie, if you'd like to schedule a follow-up meeting to discuss estate details, please contact my office. Linda, Derek, if you wish to pursue legal action, that's your prerogative, but I'll remind you that contest proceedings are expensive and, in this case, unlikely to succeed. Mom grabbed her purse, hands shaking with rage. You've always been selfish, Sophie. Always so quiet, so victim-like, making everyone feel sorry for you. Well, congratulations. You finally got what you wanted. She stormed out, heels clicking violently against the marble floor. Derek followed, pausing at the door to look back at me. For a second, I thought I saw something like regret cross his face. But then he shook his head and left without another word. I sat alone in that conference room for a long time, holding Grandma's letter, feeling the weight of everything that had just happened. Mr. Patterson returned quietly, setting a glass of water in front of me. "Take your time," he said gently. "This is a lot to absorb." When I finally felt steady enough, I opened the envelope. Grandma's handwriting filled 3 pages, and reading her words felt like hearing her voice one more time. "My dearest Sophie, if you're reading this, I'm gone, but I hope not forgotten. I want you to know that every decision I made regarding my estate was mine alone, made with clear mind and full heart. I watched you grow from a quiet child into a remarkable woman, someone who gives without counting the cost, who stays when others leave, who finds joy in small ordinary moments. Your mother is my daughter, and I loved her, but love doesn't mean blindness. I watched her choose favoritism over fairness, convenience over connection. I watched her teach your brother that charm matters more than character. And I watched you, time and again, bend yourself smaller to fit their expectations. Apologize for taking up space, accept crumbs and call it generosity. This inheritance isn't about money, though I hope it gives you freedom and security. It's about recognition. You showed up, Sophie. Not for inheritance, not for appearances, but because you genuinely cared. That's rare, precious, worth more than any dollar amount. I know my decisions will cause conflict. Your mother will be angry. Derek will feel entitled to what he thinks he deserves. Let them feel those things. You are not responsible for managing their emotions or making their lives comfortable at the expense of your own truth. Use this gift wisely. Travel if you've been putting it off. Invest in your dreams. Build a life that doesn't require you to shrink. And remember, you don't owe anyone an explanation for receiving what was freely given to you with love. You were never just around, my darling. You were exactly where you were meant to be, and I'm grateful for every moment we shared. With all my love, Grandma. Tears blurred the words by the time I finished. I folded the letter carefully and placed it back in the envelope, tucking it into my bag like the treasure it was. The next few weeks were chaotic. Mom left voicemails that started angry and gradually shifted to manipulative, talking about family loyalty and how Grandma would have wanted us to stay close. Derek sent long text messages explaining his financial situation, hinting that surely I'd want to share the inheritance fairly, suggesting amounts he felt would be reasonable for me to give him. I didn't respond to either of them. Instead, I focused on practical matters. I met with financial advisors, learned about investment portfolios, started the process of transferring property titles. Grandma's house became mine officially. I walked through it alone one afternoon, touching the furniture we'd picked out together, standing in the kitchen where she'd taught me to make her famous dumplings. In her bedroom closet, I found a box labeled Sophie's Future. Inside were more letters, one for each year she expected I might need guidance. Open on your 30th birthday. Open when you doubt yourself. Open when you're ready to forgive if ever. There were also documents showing she'd been setting aside money specifically for me since I was 12 years old, long before anyone knew she had significant assets. This wasn't a last-minute decision. This was decades of intentional love. I also found journals, years of them, where she'd documented family gatherings and interactions. Entries about birthdays Mom forgot, promises Derek broke, times I quietly cleaned up messes without recognition. She'd been paying attention all along, validating what I'd felt but never voiced. Reading those journals, I realized Grandma hadn't just given me an inheritance. She'd given me permission to stop doubting my own experience. 3 months after the will reading, I received a letter from Mom. Not an email or text, but an actual handwritten letter. In it, she admitted she'd been hurt by Grandma's decision, felt rejected, questioned her own worth as a daughter. She asked if we could meet for coffee. The tone wasn't fully apologetic, but it was softer, more vulnerable than anything she'd expressed before. I thought about it for a week. Part of me wanted to refuse, to let her feel the weight of absence the way I had so many times. But Grandma's voice echoed in my memory. Breaking cycles doesn't mean becoming hard. It means choosing differently. So I agreed to meet, in a neutral cafe downtown, both of us arriving separately. Mom looked older somehow, tired around the edges. We ordered coffee and sat across from each other in uncomfortable silence, until she finally spoke. "I don't understand why she did this," she said quietly. "I'm trying to, but I don't." "Because I showed up," I said simply. Not for money or recognition. Just because I loved her. Mom's eyes watered. I loved her too. Did you though? I asked, not cruelly, just honestly. Or did you love the idea of her, the convenience of her, the safety net she provided? Because love isn't just a feeling, Mom. It's action. It's showing up even when it's inconvenient. It's remembering birthdays and answering phone calls and being present in moments that don't benefit you directly. She looked down at her coffee cup, stirring it slowly. You're right, she whispered finally. I took her for granted. I took you for granted. We didn't fix everything that day. Healing doesn't work like that, doesn't happen in one conversation over lattes. But it was a beginning, a crack in the wall we'd built between us. I told her I wasn't interested in rebuilding the old dynamic, but I was open to creating something new, something honest. She nodded, said she'd try, and for the first time in my life, I believed she might actually mean it. Derek reached out too eventually. His message was shorter, less introspective. He apologized for any hard feelings and hoped we could move past this. It was surface level, performative, exactly what I expected. I responded politely but distantly, making it clear I wasn't interested in resuming our old patterns. Some relationships can be repaired. Others just need to be released. With the inheritance, I did exactly what Grandma hoped I would. I kept her house, turning it into a retreat space where I could work and host friends who needed respite from their own chaotic lives. I invested wisely, ensuring long-term security. I donated to causes Grandma cared about. Literacy programs, community gardens, scholarships for first-generation college students. And I traveled. I went to Japan during cherry blossom season, walked through temples, ate street food, got lost in translation and found myself in the process. I visited small villages in Italy, learned to make pasta from grandmothers who reminded me of my own. I stood on beaches in Thailand watching the sun rise, feeling grateful not just for the money that made these trips possible, but for the woman who saw me clearly enough to give me wings. 1 year after Grandma's passing, I returned to her grave. I brought fresh flowers and a letter of my own, telling her about everything I'd done, everywhere I'd been, every moment I wished I could share with her. I told her about Mom's slow, stumbling attempts at change. I told her about the distance I'd maintained with Derek, how I'd learned that loving someone doesn't mean accepting their dysfunction. You taught me that I don't have to earn love through service, I said aloud, voice carried away by the wind. That my presence alone is enough. Thank you for seeing me when everyone else looked right past me. Thank you for choosing me. Not because I was perfect, but because I was present. Sitting there in the quiet cemetery, I understood something profound. The inheritance wasn't just about money or property. It was about validation, about having someone say, your life matters. Your choices have value. You deserve good things not because you sacrificed everything, but simply because you exist. Grandma Margaret gave me more than financial security. She gave me proof that I had been seen, valued, loved for exactly who I was. And in doing so, she gave me the courage to build a life where I no longer waited for permission to take up space. If this story resonates with you, leave a comment sharing your thoughts. Tell me where you're from. What inheritance means to you beyond material things. Sometimes the greatest gifts we receive aren't measured in dollars, but in the courage someone gives us to finally believe we're worth showing up for. And remember, you don't need anyone's permission to claim the life you deserve. The people who truly see you will make sure you know it. Not through empty words, but through intentional, consistent presence. Hit subscribe for more stories about finding strength in unexpected places, about family dynamics that challenge and change us, about learning that sometimes the quietest act of courage is simply refusing to shrink anymore. Because at the end of the day, we're all just searching for the same thing. To be seen, to be valued, to matter to someone beyond what we can provide. Grandma Margaret showed me I already was all those things. I just needed to believe it myself.